She's in the waiting room.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Hello, YouTube. It's a new thing.
Okay, it's very litigious.
It's a little smoother this week, we will work with the band and choreographer because they need to tighten that up, that little 10-second film. Debbie Long, Doug Rutherford, Hans and Caitlin Greasy from Colorado, Ivy's in the house. Jeff and Jane Greasy, little short story about Jeff. Jeff took 6 weeks off from wine drinking and he decided to join tonight because of Pinot Noir. We won't get into the details of what was the cause of these 6 week sabbatical, but we are thrilled that Jeff and Jane are back. Jim Brubaker, Julie Fogarty in Chicago, Ken Herbers, Ken, that may be Herbert, I don't know, but welcome. Good to have you here. Linda Forsyth, Mark Salazar, good to see you again. Nelson Holden, Scotland Kiefer's in the house. Scotland, I apologize. We have only one bottle this evening. There is no Scotland duo, but you picked a great time to jump in because we are going to go deep into the Russian River Valley with the person that knows it like the back of her hand, and that is not a figure of speech. Has been to probably every single vineyard, not only in the Russian River Valley, but in California, and not many people can say that. We came about Dot Wines through one of the greatest attributes of the way you can meet people, and that is a referral, because we don't have an algorithm for this thing that we're doing here. We have a chance to do great work and do it for people that we hope care, and we hope they care so much that they are inspired to tell others, i.e. you are our algorithm, and that's exactly what happens with our customers and our wineries. So when one winery, Noir Winery, mentioned to Lise that in fact you need to talk to Cellar Angels, and she reached out, we were blown away by this story we're about to share with you. For those of you like me that are drinking Dot wine in advance, it is something that you should be doing because without question, it is a special wine. And in order to do that, all you need to do is head over to the Cellar Angels website, and you go over to shop, you scroll down to wine, and it brings you up to all of the different wines that are available. And I strongly recommend the SIP tasting kit, because this is where it takes all decision-making and worry and heartache and stress out of the equation. Grab a kit and you will be set for the next 4 to 5 Fridays in a row where you get to taste with the people making the wine like Lise. And so this is where you get it. This is her Pinot Noir that we're featuring tonight. And I don't want to wait another second. There are poll questions, of course. There will be Google Earth at the bottom of the hour. We will turn on cameras for those people who have touched up their appearance and have learned how to blur the background. That would be good. But this is what it's all about. Small, limited production wineries with fantastic stories, doing amazing things from a magical region. And again, this is eudaimonia. This is an Aristotle type of philosophy that talks about flourishing, being blessed, having gratitude, and it's all about great wine. And with that in mind, let's meet tonight's host with me, Lise Asimont from Dot Wines. Hello, Lise.
Hi, Martin. Hi, Cellar Angels and everybody here. So excited to be here. And thank you so much to Cellar Angels for having Dot Wine.
You're very, very welcome. Very welcome. And we always talk about stories of Dot Wines, and you and husband, Sean, are in this business together. Myself and Mission Control, who is behind the scenes, who runs and keeps this ship airborne. Also, husband and wife team, a lot of husband and wife duos in business together. How did you and Dot and Sean, and how did it all come about? Why go in business together?
Well, because you can never have too many children that you send to college, right? You just always need that extra situation. Actually, the truth of the matter is my husband, the co-founder of our company, is a gardener. and he owns his own company. He's had it for 30 years. And I am a viticulturist. So viticulturist, I'm sure your Cellar Angels participants are much more educated than the common wine drinker. Everyone always asks me what that is. Just in case, I'm a grape farmer. I'm a grape farmer.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well,
sorry. That was a big poll question. Sorry.
No,
okay.
no. Hang on. Change the first poll question. Hurry up.
Dang it. Okay.
Okay, so and I'll even back up to see if I can set this up a little bit better, because viticulturalist is a grape grower, cultivator of the vine, and that is a big area of studying. I believe you went to UC Davis.
Yes, I did. I received my master's from UC Davis in viticulture.
And how long did that take?
Decades ago. It actually only took me about 2 years. I was accepted into the master's program, but it did take me an additional 2 years to finish my research and finalize my thesis, which was a titillating review of the currently commercially available germplasm and its resistance to 3 different genotypes of root knot nematodes. So super sexy, exciting stuff. You know, if you're bored on a Saturday night, I will send you all my thesis and it'll be a good time.
How many pages is that sleep aid?
It was about 60. Yeah. So it's about 60 pages of sleep aid. So good stuff. Yeah. Excellent. Super exciting start.
So you got your master's in viticulture from the UC Davis, and you're a cultivator of grapevines. So you basically know every single thing there is per se on how to grow grapevines. Yes,
and that's probably why I'm such an exciting person at parties. It's basically even more narrow. My specialty as a viticulturist is only for wine grapes. I actually I don't work with table grapes or raisins, just wine grapes. That's exactly my specialty. My whole job and existence in life is to make sure that I'm farming a particular vineyard to exactly match the level of quality and style that's trying to be achieved by the winemaker.
Well, and now it's interesting because you talk about being a wild time at a party. Probably 3 or 4 months ago, we had on Brian Ron of Ron Estates, and Brian is great. So you do know him. Okay.
Yeah, he's great. He's awesome.
He's a certified soil specialist. So you two at a networking cocktail event have just got to be lights out, just talking about.
We've actually worked on projects together. He's extraordinary. He's one of my favorite people to come in on site surveys because he just knows the ins and outs of soil. So he's awesome.
Okay. So that's crazy that you two know each other, but I love it. But it also actually sets the path for what we're talking about here with regards to viticulture and wine. So you've been doing this for 22 years, 24 years, and that's a long time. So where in that process did you decide, okay, I want to make wine versus just grow vines?
It was really, I think it always sort of was there for me, you know, going through my master's program and working in vineyards throughout the state of California. And then I had the opportunity to work on programs as a winemaker, actually, in Italy, France, Spain, a part of Slovenia that was just a little project, Peru and Oregon. And so I sort of traveled, I was able to see the world. I was able to see different viticultural styles, both Northern and Southern Hemisphere. There's still a lot of ground I haven't covered, obviously, in those areas. And in 2016, Sean and I finally looked at each other and thought, it's time for us to have our own label. And we basically came up with the concept of DOT. And the concept of DOT basically is just as the little dot is the beginning of a beautiful art masterpiece, so is the grape, the humble grape, the beginning of a gorgeous wine. And it's sort of, what wine would a viticulturist and a gardener make? You know, what wine would a farmer craft? And it's basically that the fact that we get to walk these vineyards during harvest, we get to see everything and smell everything we get to see, and we get to taste everything before it's picked. And that beautiful flavor profile that is just indescribable, and it's so joyous. We wanted to bring that into our wines. So that's my winemaking style, is very minimal intervention, just trying to bring those flavor profiles. So when you have a glass of DOT wine, like tonight, if you're drinking the Lolita Vineyard, you get to taste what it was like when we were picking it, right before we picked it in 2018, back in, Green Valley and Russian River, that vintage.
Well, and I like the fact that you know Brian, because what you're describing from a philosophy standpoint and perspective is very similar to what his philosophy was with regards to letting the vineyard speak. And we hear a little bit more of that, and I'm thankful that we do, because it seems that the frequency of minimalistic wine approach has been turned. We have to
Someone
have
turned the
Sean
lights off on me. That was hilarious. There was a little panic in our room just now.
That's okay. But
That's
letting the vineyard speak, you can't let the vineyard speak when you're producing 50,000 cases or 20,000 cases. The vineyard's not talking. The lab is talking, and the manufacturing and production facility is talking. But as a viticulturist, having traveled to every single winery in California and all of the wineries in the Russian River, you get to take your viticultural background of study, analysis, science, technical expertise, and say, okay, I know this vineyard, I know these vines, and you get to pick basically on where you want to produce and source from for Dot Wines.
Yes. And that was the most fun part, was just finally saying, okay, we're ready. What vineyard are you going to choose? And that took us a couple of years to actually choose the actual vineyard we were going to work with.
Well, and first of all, before the vineyard, why Pinot Noir? Why did you choose Pinot Noir? Because everyone tells us from a winemaking perspective, it is absolutely soul crushing.
Yeah, that's why. So it's exactly why.
I like a challenge.
Yeah, Pinot Noir as a winemaker. So the winemaker side of me, it's extremely challenging. It's extremely challenging variety to work with. And why start easy, right? But also with Vineyard Wise, it's really the variety that I identify the most with. I identify my home, my heart, our marriage. Like everything is all about the Russian River Valley and about Pinot Noir. It's the grounding principle when I was jet setting through either the state of California or the West Coast or Europe or South America that brought me back to that was my base and my home. And it's what I truly believe in. And when you're that passionate about something and something is that intrinsic to you and you love it that much, you learn you become almost intimate. I know it sounds kind of weird, but you become almost intimate with that region, those soils, that variety. And it's hilarious. I wake up every day and I think about what can we do in this vineyard to make it even better.
Well, here's what I find interesting is, first of all, the background of having 24 years of being a viticulturist with a master's from UC Davis, impressive as all get out to begin with. And someone has commented, Jeff and Jane, clearly you started when you were 12 years of age, because based upon your looks, it's impossible that you've been doing this for 24 years.
We're all preserved in the wine industry. You know that, right? The amount of anthocyanidins that we...
Some people call it preserved. Some people say pickled. Either way, it's okay. Yeah. But in addition to the book smarts, and then from a vineyard identification standpoint, then you actually have to go out and have a relationship with who is the owner of that vineyard, and then somehow spend probably a considerable amount of time, months, years, in convincing them, I'd like to buy some of your fruit to make wine. How does that evolve?
Yeah. Well, it was an easy evolution for us because our daughter, we have two children, Cassius and Lily, and our youngest, her name is Lily, and one of her best buddies who she went to school with from kindergarten all the way to 8th grade is a little girl, her buddy named Maddie Lou Martinelli. And Maddie Lou Martinelli's parents are Pam and Lee Jr. Martinelli, and they're good buddies of ours. And Lee kept harping on us, it's time, you need to do this. So we actually saw a couple of Lee Martinelli Jr.'s vineyards, so the Martinelli family, their vineyards for a couple years, trying to figure out which site would work the best for us. And when we saw Lolita, the Lolita vineyard, which is located in what I refer to as the heart of the Russian River Valley, the cold heart. It's in Green Valley on Martinelli Road. I know it's ridiculous, but yeah, it's on Martinelli Road. And it was this perfect site. And as a viticulturist, you sort of search high and low for these sites, these so-called unicorn sites. It was perfect south by southeast exposure, perfect hillside, but not too steep. It was more undulating, so I wouldn't have imbalance between the bottom and the top of the hill. I call it the hilltop versus the swale issue with soil erosion that you never want to deal with. And it's grown by the right farmer. When I walk with Lee, we work with other growers. When I walk with Lee, my Falcos are always in their holster, and I'm learning and I'm enjoying, and it's this amazing educational experience. When I walk with other growers, there's a lot of critique and we need to do work. So it's the perfect grower. It's a perfect personality. He's so excited that we're making this wine. And he was so excited because he and Pam actually personally own this vineyard, the Lolita
Wait.
Vineyard. So to have us vineyard designated was exciting.
What did you say is always in the holster?
My Felcos. So we always walk around with a pair. If you look on our website, you'll see I'm always in every picture because I always want to make sure people understand I'm a viticulturist first and a winemaker second. And so I always have my Felcos in the photo, and it's the bond between my husband and I because we both wear Felcos for our jobs. We work outside and we wear these shears that have a red handle on it. It's made by a company based in France or Germany, I think, and it's called Felco, and it's a part of our brand identity to the point where now Felco on social media tags us all the time because we're wearing Felco. Yeah.
I don't have a Felco. Could someone get me some of those? I mean,
I will send you Felcos. Actually, on a side note, if you want to hear something funny, the other week I got a phone call and an in-person meeting at social distance from a competing company to Felco because they wanted to see if they could sponsor us. And I said no.
It's not surprising that fantastic agricultural cutting instruments come from Germany. It's like 98% of the surgical instrumentation in the world for the operating room also comes from Germany. So I'm not that surprised. But now at least I know what they are. They are not clippers that you're getting at Home Depot, I would imagine.
No.
And please, Home Depot, no letters. I don't want any letters.
Yeah.
All right. So you're a viticulturist first, winemaker second, and you decided to make wine in the Russian River Valley. And for those of you that have been on the Cellar Angels program for the last several weeks, you know that we've done an educational piece where we've gone from vineyard selection to clone selection to harvest timing to fermentation to last week we did barrel selection. So vineyard selection has a lot to do with the wines that a winemaker wants to make. And you picked the Russian River Valley. And the Russian River Valley, I don't think I'm going out on a limb here because it has a commercial connotation of Chardonnay, Pinot, Chardonnay, Russian River Valley, Pinot, Chardonnay. And people now, it's even almost a catchphrase. Oh, it's a Russian River Valley Pinot. And I think it's getting typecast as a result of that because people associate a certain style of Pinot Noir with the Russian River Valley. And they may not know that there's wide variations of Pinot Noir within the Russian River Valley. So first question, why did you choose the Russian River Valley? And then how does an AVA be, like, what are the attributes of importance when you go to the TTB to say, hey, we want to be an AVA, and what did the Russian River have to designate as what was unique to them?
Awesome questions. To answer the first question, we chose the Russian River Valley AVA because for our first wine, I wanted to do exceptional, extraordinary, and just aim for the hills, knock it out of the park, swing the biggest bat we have, and just do everything right. The reason why we started this program was to make the perfect Pinot Noir that we selfishly would love. And that was Lolita when we saw that site. And that's why we did it. And we wanted to have just no excuses, cut no corners, pick the perfect vineyard and go through the perfect fermentation and choose the perfect barrels and everything. So the fussiness over this in our 2016 vintage was beyond compare. It was pretty intense, but I just wanted it to be perfect. Now we've made Lolita through 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 5 vintages now. It's been exciting. We've added other Pinot Noir vineyards onto our portfolio, and we've worked with them. All of them happen to be Russian River Valley. I haven't been brave enough yet to jump out, but I'm about to. I'm at the precipice of jumping outside of that to give more expressions of Pinot Noir from different regions. I would never, ever want to say that Russian River Valley is better than Anderson Valley or that it's better than the Saints, the Central Coast Saints, or anything like that. It's the style that we wanted to produce. That's our home and we live there. So it's sort of where we are and it's our community. And I just wanted to knock it out of the park and get comfortable with that. And then soon, hopefully we'll start producing wines of different appellations. So,
well, I'm still marveling at the aspect of giving your knowledge and background and that you chose this region. To me, it's kind of like if you're a golf course architect and you've spent 24 years building golf courses and you had to play one golf course, where would you play? And then this person picks a course. So
River Valley.
yeah, you're exactly right.
Perfect.
You're picking the Lolita vineyard as the first vineyard source where you want to, like you said, swing the largest bat, knock it out of the park. And with your background, it's not like you threw a dart at a map. You specifically chose this vineyard.
Yeah, it's clone 777, which is my second favorite clone. Everyone, I think you know my favorite clone, but I'm not going to say it because I want to make sure I don't ruin any of the.
That would have been a good poll question, but you can say it. That's an extra credit question.
Okay, great. Well, I won't say it. Let's see if people can guess it. And it had literally everything perfect about this vineyard, and it's hilarious. The first year in 2016 when we picked it, we night pick, and it's pretty chaotic, but it's only a 2-acre piece. So it was really fast to pick. Comes to the winery, and the whole crew at the sorting tables are just taking a lunch break, watching our fruit go through the sorting table. And the facility winemaker, who's a good buddy of ours and is exceptional and a big hand in what we do at DOT, Blaine Brazil at J. Rickard's Winery in Cloverdale, said, "Oh, this is really fun. We just admire the grapes as they go by." So it's been a joke for 5 years. They admire, so the fruit comes and they admire. And Lee Martinelli Jr. himself usually drives the truck and drops off the grapes and laughs and giggles the whole time when everyone's admiring it and they catch up. This past year though, 2020, Maddie Lou Martinelli herself. So our daughter's best buddy, she delivered the grapes herself, which was pretty. So she enjoyed the rest time when your grapes are going through the sorting table.
Impressive. That's a very, very nice pedigree to come out of the gates with. All right, speaking of poll questions, we'll launch the first poll question. And then I'm going to have you follow up on your favorite clone. So the Russian River Valley is a rather large geographical AVA with many subregions that are actually known as neighborhoods. How many neighborhoods are there within the Russian River Valley? And at least you cannot answer. So you stop looking like you're going to answer this one. This is not for you. I'm going to give this 10 more seconds. And then we're going to have you the big reveal is going to be your favorite clone besides 777.
Wow.
And there's people that are guessing that it might begin with a P.
Oh, yeah.
All right. So it is a large AVA, and the number of sub-regions, not necessarily sub-AVAs, but sub-neighborhoods is in fact 5.
Yeah.
So there are 2 sub-AVAs, and Lise has mentioned one of them already in Green Valley that we're going to talk about. But what is your favorite clone?
Actually, it's not Pomard. It's 667. It's always been 667. Yes, because I one of our wines is a combo. I call it the on-top threat, the triple threat, right? 115, 667, and 777. It's for me, it's 667 because my second favorite, actually, to be honest, is that's shared with 777 is the Calera selection. I love Calera because it's so powerful. And my third favorite is Villa Mount Eden Clone 37 because it's so big and mean and just blah. But 667 I love because it has almost a structure similar to 115. So it has a better tannin structure. It's a little darker, but it has this just unctuous cherry berry, undeniable. And if you make it right, it's just so the fruit just spills in aromatics out of the glass and it makes me so happy. So yeah, it's my favorite. Yeah.
Well, that's interesting because we had folks guessing Pomard, we had folks guessing Dijon. So I like it. And we geeked out about 5-6 weeks ago on clones, and it's amazing how many clones. It's almost the artistry of a chef where you're just picking ingredients. It's like, I want this one. I want this one. And then you have to, picking the ingredients is one thing. Getting them all together is completely another.
Yeah, it's very challenging.
Okay, so I understand a little bit why you picked the Russian River Valley, but let's talk a little bit about the Russian River Valley from the 50,000 foot level. And it's kind of analogous with how a bill becomes a law if everybody remembers the old conjunction junction. By the way, if I didn't tell everybody, this is SIP 60 weeks in a row. We've been at this, showing no signs of slowing down. Pour yourself a glass of wine because you guys are incredible for participating in all this. And it's the challenge of becoming an AVA, first of all, you've got to convince the TTB that you're special. And there are a couple attributes to do that. And we've talked a lot about in the past year, certain aspects and attributes of the AVAs. We've talked about the Petaluma Gap and a lot of the fog and some of the physical characteristics surrounding the proximity to water. But this is your area of specialty. So why is the Russian River special?
The Russian River is special because, like any AVA, when we're talking about coastal California, it's going to be driven by a couple items that you and I discussed yesterday, actually. So it's driven by your proximity to a significant body of water, and it's driven by how the topography, the surrounding topography, allows or disallows the receiving of that body of water's influence. Okay, so in this case, Russian River, it's the Pacific Ocean. Number two, topography, it's the river itself that winds through this very, Russian River Valley is not like a big valley like Napa Valley when you drive up. It's all sort of patchwork quilt and kind of taken apart. So it's driven by that. And it's also driven by the soils that you have there. And that's a really major combination with millions of different intricacies that are driving the flavor profiles and types of wines that you're able to grow in that region. So the Russian River Valley is truly special, in my opinion, because of the fact of that three combination, that incredible combination kind of coming together and culminating in a pretty spectacular area to grow Pinot Noir, Chardonnay, Sauvignon Blanc, and Zins and Syrahs, in my opinion, as well. So when you kind of look at it's like lightning striking. And each region, Dry Creek Valley for Zin, it's so well suited for Zinfandel because of that reason as well. All these different areas that you kind of look at, there's a reason why we've chosen to grow a particular variety there and have been able to yield exceptional quality.
Well, when you talk about certainly the coastal influence, and we talk about it every single week at Cellar Angels with regards to all of the great wine regions in the world, and I don't care if you're up in Okinawa, Canada, or in Europe, there's a maritime influence. So there's certainly a body of water nearby that's influencing. The thing that I think is unique or interesting, in my opinion, about the Russian River Valley is the sea cliff wall that the Pacific Ocean hits, essentially. And then you have the plates, the coastal plates that are, one's going down, one's going up. Mm-hmm. Yep. So you got the Pacific plate going underneath, and all that scraping of soil and turning,
there you go,
has manifested in essentially Sonoma County and Napa to a degree, which is why when we talk about this over and over about how special this tapestry is in Napa and Sonoma for winemaking, it's because of all these things. And so that, as it relates to the Russian River Valley getting a designation by the TTB is uniqueness. Walk us through how the coastal influence and the fog coming over imparts the influence on the vines. And it's obviously different in different areas of the Russian River Valley because fog comes in later, fog leaves earlier, and how all that impacts the vine.
So the key to Russian River Valley and fog, I always tell people, it's not how cold you get, it's how you get your cold or how you get your heat. So areas that are further away, let me back up. The Pacific Ocean is the source of all the fog, and it's this gigantic moderating influence in temperature. When California gets hot, cool influences come into the landmass to cool it down. When California gets cold, the inverse actually acts as true as well. We also, the Pacific Ocean, which people sometimes forget, also has an upwelling event that happens right about now every year, where the cold water from underneath kind of comes up and comes over, and it's directed by our sea surface temperatures, which are a little bit cooler than average right now. We're riding at least 1.5 to 2 degrees cooler this year than we are normally. And also how close those sea surface temperatures are in proximity to the larger trenches we have. We have very significant ocean trenches. And we're talking like Grand Canyons, right? Underneath the ocean, just north of Sonoma County and quite south of Sonoma County. The most local to us would be up by Humboldt, and then another one in Monterey. So these things, it creates this gigantic moderating influence. So now we have the Pacific Ocean that basically it's not gonna let you get too hot. It's not gonna let you get too cold. Then during the summer day in the Russian River Valley, the fog, okay, actually during the summer afternoon in the Russian River Valley, the fog actually will, because of the marine influences, work its way into the landmass. And it can't get into the landmass because there's a very significant, as you referred to, sea cliffs. And those are very significant coastal mountains that we have. So the only way it has in its egress is the actual Russian River itself. So the Russian River itself acts as a conduit for all of these marine influences. And so if you look at a map and you see how the Russian River, it sort of undulates and goes through Sonoma County, through the Russian River Valley AVA itself, you sort of can see who gets the fog first. So if you're closer to the mouth of the Russian River, if you're by Jenner and Duncan's Mills, you'll get the fog first. And then as you kind of go up through it, it sort of rests later. So the Green Valley, which I always, and I revealed to you yesterday, it's a little bit elitist, I always point to my heart, the cold heart of the Russian River Valley. It truly is a very cool, cold place. And it's earlier on the receival of fog. So in the afternoon, Green Valley is going to get that, that fog bank and that fog coastal influence as early as, 1 o'clock or 3 o'clock p.m. And it's not going to blow off the fog the next morning until, at least 11:30 in a really warm season. So when you see that, you understand that these vines, it's extraordinary how temperate that growing region is. When you have a temperate growing region, when it's not too hot, the vine is actually allowed to physiologically function for longer, okay? So actually our vines in the Russian River have a little bit longer of a workday, and theoretically that gives us a chance to create greater phenolics or flavor profiles. So scientifically, I don't want to geek out too hard, but scientifically, that's actually an explanation climatically and mesoclimate-wise why I really prefer Russian River Valley Pinot Noir.
And whoever had mesoclimate for the term that they were not expecting to hear tonight for $1,000, you are a winner. I'm going to launch the second poll because I think it's interesting. You talk about Green Valley, and there are pockets, obviously, in areas within the Russian River Valley that lend itself to I don't want to say simple wine production, but Green Valley, you talked about the cold heart of Russian River Valley. A great many people in the trade journalism of wine talk about, to make great wine in Russian River Valley, specifically Green Valley, it's like walking on a knife edge because the conditions and the climate, the terrain, the wind, all of it makes it extremely difficult. It's not growing Cabernet on the valley floor somewhere. This is winemaking and viticulture at its best, because this is where the conditions are the fiercest, if you will, or the most challenging. So I'm going to launch the second poll question, and then we're going to turn on some cameras. How many wineries comprise the Russian River Valley? So no smartphones, by the way. If I see anybody cheating, it's 10 demerits. All right, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So no one chose 350, which is good because that is not the answer. Mission Control tells me that there are 300 wineries in Russian River Valley, which I find shockingly impossible to believe. I was going to say around 90. So Lise, what do you think?
I think it's 300. I actually thought it was 350, but I'm surprised it's 300. We refer to ourselves as a micro winery. We're one of those 300. There's quite a few people who are very passionate about the Russian River Valley and wave that Russian River Valley flag and have smaller programs. So it's quite possible.
All right, we're going to go with 300. So all of you that had 300, put your names in the chat. You have a gift certificate coming to you of who's our sponsor this week? Archer's Fish and Chips. So we will be sending some fish. No, I'm just teasing. We have no sponsor. When we get a sponsor, we will send you some gifts. Jeff and Jane Greasy are telling, see, it's the honor system. So we expect you to be honored. I think 4 people had the correct answer. Let's get a lowdown on what we're talking about with regard to the Russian River. And if you would like to turn your camera on, now is the opportunity. We're going to elevate everybody so that we can see beautiful faces. All right, so here's where we are on our beautiful planet, and we're going to talk again about wine region. So, as Lise mentioned, you have a maritime influence with Sonoma County and Napa, and obviously the proximity to the Pacific Ocean is the huge driver with regard to that. Sonoma County has 11 different rivers. Napa has its fair amount. You've got San Pablo Bay. It's amazing the opportunity to craft and produce fantastic wines in this region because the tapestry and opportunity of soils and climate influences is amazing. Now, several weeks ago, we talked about the Petaluma Gap. And this is actually one of those areas. And by the way, these are not drawn to scale. So if there's a map person among us that is looking for the topography and drawing to scale, hold your comments. But north of the Petaluma Gap, they actually share a border is the Russian River Valley-ish. So again, I did not drill down to the 1 foot level when I was crafting this. But if we drill down to the Russian River Valley, you can see that it does have parts of it are, the Russian River is right in the middle of it. And Lisa's right, it's kind of funny because when you drive up Napa from the south to the north, you are in a valley. You see the mountains on the left, you see the mountains on the right. It's 30 miles long, 5 miles wide at its widest point, so to speak. But here you get an idea of the Russian River AVA, just goes a little bit past Healdsburg, comes down, cuts through Santa Rosa, cuts over into Occidental, Guerneville. Now, the Green Valley area where Lise is sourcing some fruit is an AVA within the Russian River Valley. And now, Lise, why did the folks within the Green Valley want to plant a flag to say, hey, TTB, we're special too? And how did they determine that this is more special because of the fog, because of the terrain, the topography? What was it that they wanted to earmark as extra special?
It's based on two things. It's quite similar to what I explained earlier. So proximity to a body of water. In this case, it's how the Russian River flows through that region and the watershed that's associated with it. So the Green Valley watershed is really what we're kind of looking at. So topography wise, there you go. So you can kind of tell this is all one watershed within Green Valley. And then the other reason is because the folk song heroes, in our family, we say punk rock heroes of soils in the Russian River Valley are concentrated the most in Green Valley. And we're talking about the famous Goldbridge fine sandy clay loam, and we're talking about Sebastopol fine sandy clay loam, and not a lot of Huachica. That's kind of to the east there of that Green Valley line in the Santa Rosa Plain, which we do produce a vineyard. We work with a vineyard in that area as well. That's quite exceptional, but it's not as easy of a soil. So it's kind of, it's punk rock soils. It is the exact right. It's the same watershed, and watersheds tend to have a similar, oh God, I'm so geeky, mesoclimate, and they drain the same way. So that similarity is right there. I, as an industry veteran, a wine industry veteran, there are definitely areas within every AVA where I can argue perhaps it was political that it was added and wasn't necessarily based on metrics that we rely on in science. For this situation, for Green Valley, it is truly 100% watertight on its metrics. It's the Green Valley watershed, it's the punk rock soils, and it's the way it drains with the Russian River itself running through it.
Well, and then from within here, you source from Lolita, and you were talking about
Yes.
how it's just a crazy cool vineyard. And so let's show a little bit of that topography.
There she is. I love this. That's it. That's our block right there. The block to the left. That's us. That perfect little undulating little piece. That's us. Right there. No, right. Go forward. That little piece. There you are. Right there. And then the piece where the piece where the marker is. That's William Selliams, and that's my buddy Jeff Mangajas. He's a buddy of mine. He's great. And then the piece right below it is from Martinelli Winery themselves.
Wow.
Yep.
Thank goodness I got that correct.
It's perfect. Good job.
Well, what I think is interesting too is you can see really the undulation here and the topography.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's super cool. So this is your block right here.
That's it. That's our block right there. It's a 2-acre piece and it's perfect. It's perfect because I didn't like the steepness of the top of the hill. That tends to be more eroded. So we would actually have issues with having, even distribution of vigor and vine balance throughout the site. So that little piece
that
is
looks like a steep hill.
Yeah, it's a steep hill. And William's telling me has to do like 3 different picks on it. This is this perfect aspect, perfect little site. I love it.
Oh, that's fantastic. And now the Rowan family vineyard, you also
That's our
source from.
new baby. Yes, that's our newest vineyard in the family.
And you talk about the coastal influence, and the Pacific Ocean is just over a couple hillsides.
You can see it. And you feel it. You definitely feel it. I mean, it's hoodie. We call it a hoodie. It's a hooded sweatshirt. It's hoodie weather all the time there. And there's our own family. There we are off Bones Road.
Now, is it this vineyard block or is it any of these?
It's the 2 to your left. So there's actually 3 micro blocks there. It's 1, 2, 3. And then where your marker is actually a Dutton vineyard. It's owned by the Duttons. And then the Dutton's Farm Rome family, which are the 3 little blocks to the left. And then to the west of us, which looks north on this shot, that's a little apple orchard there. Apples are actually quite extraordinary in the Russian River Valley as well, especially the Gravenstein apple. It's
the
beautiful.
Gravenstein apple. I've heard amazing things. Things. So this vineyard looks more valley flourish.
It's actually benchland. It has benchy soils. So it's not very thick clay, tight cation exchange capacity, shrink swell kind of clay. It's actually really killer friable soil. This is actually where we are is actually up. It's up significantly from down. If you go south on this shot, which would be eastward, keep going down, go south. There. If you keep going down, you actually go downhill. That's actually the top of the hill. You're going down south there.
All right.
You go down eastward. And eastward, right there at the bottom of the row, is actually a famous vineyard called Marty's, which is the exceptional vineyard that everybody fights over for. So when I found Rowan family,
wait.
I was really excited.
Can we just back up? And I'm sorry, what's the name of the vineyard?
Marty's.
Okay, just wanted to make sure everyone heard that.
Yeah, it's Marty's Vineyard. So it's this insanely gorgeous vineyard that Kistler, Dumal, Costa Brown, everybody fights over, and they do vineyard designates out of it. It's exceptional. It's farmed by the Duttons as well. So this is kind of Dutton country here, this part of Green Valley, and it down there, so it's lower. It's actually lower. So we're kind of more upper up on the hill, and I thought that was pretty awesome. The Roan family is Amber and Mike Roan, and Mike Roan actually is he was a Tennessee Titan. So he was a professional football player, and he's now the athletic director at our son's. Well, our son he's obviously in college now, our son, but our son went to a high school, and he's the AD at our son's high school. So that's how we got to know him. It's pretty cool.
No, so this is
pride. So that's Marty's right there by the reservoir is Marty's.
Right down here?
So yeah, famous vineyard. So the killer quality, pretty amazing. And Thomas Road Vineyards in that area as well, which is killer quality. So this is sort of like the Beverly Hills zip code, if you will, of Green Valley.
Yeah,
this area.
This is Murderer's Row of great quality vineyards.
Right.
Although Beverly Hills probably a little bit more elegant than Murderer's Row, so I appreciate that reference.
You're welcome.
Thank you. So that's interesting because this is all in the heart of Green Valley, which is within the Russian River, but that sub-AVA aspect is kind of special because it's you have some sort of specialness, and then you've got extra special, and like you said, the cold heart of the Russian River Valley. That is impressive. I like it. So we've got soil, we've got microclimates, we've got 32 million years of evolution. We have coastal plates, tectonics that we probably never thought they would be discussing. What is it about Dot Wines that you want people to know that they need to understand and why it's so darn special beyond hearing it from me?
Well, I think our special talent is the ability to work with exceptional vineyards and make sure that we deliver that flavor profile to you in that bottle. And it's really fun to see the different vintages that we make of the same vineyard, because you sort of get to experience and taste that vintage every single year. And before I'm gonna just steer into the curve and nip it before it becomes a question. We were able to pick grapes in 2020, which was a very scary year for us, wildfires and such. And we actually were able to pick Lolita. So a couple days after the fire started, the smoke deck was still very high at Lolita. And we actually walked the vineyard with Lee Martinelli Jr. And the three of us got very emotional because one ridge over was flames about 20 feet high. It was very scary. And there was ash about this big landing in the vineyard, but the smoke deck was still high. We were still below smoke deck. And we made, because we're a small micro winery, we made a very emotional decision that a larger winery could not afford to do, which was, oh, I'm going to make this wine no matter what, because if this vineyard burns down, I'll never forgive myself for not trying to pick it. So we did it. We actually ran a tractor with a spray rig on it and basically doused the vines down 20 gallons per acre, 200 gallons per acre to wash all the ash off. Took the crew through, shook every vine before we picked it to get the ash and water out, and then picked it. And we were able to make our 2020 Lolita. And because it was so light and early in the season, I actually had to Saunier it. So I saved our rosé program. So we made 50 cases of Lolita and 50 cases of rosé. And a couple days before the fire started, we actually picked our first Sauvignon Blanc program as well. So we have a small 2020 vintage that's representative of us. But I'm very proud of our 2016, which was our first vintage. I'm very proud of every vintage we've ever made at Lolita. But I am exceptionally proud and very emotionally tied to 2020 because it was such a great moment. And it made me so grateful that I was tiny and I could do that. And I'm so grateful that my husband was crazy enough to do it with me. So.
No, that's the craziness of spousal decision-making and courage has a lot to do with the gratitude and fulfilling nature of the business. I'd be curious, let's talk a little bit about case productions. I'm drinking the 2018, which is on the Cellar Angels site. And for the life of me, I cannot remember case production.
So the 2018 vintage was Rubenesque. It was as large, it was as beautiful as it was big. So we made a stellar 85 cases, perhaps 90, I can't remember my stats. And that was like, we were like, whoa, we're so big. And at the time, I actually was working for a larger winery at the time. And so it was a funny yin yang moment there.
I can appreciate that. 85 cases, yeah. You're thinking we're busting out at the seams, and someone's like, we actually spilled it. Yeah, we spilled 85 cases last week. So
yeah.
And then flavor profile. You talk about minimalistic approach. You talk about you having the viticultural background and you sourcing the grapes from the vines and the vineyards that you want to source from to produce the wine that you want to produce. So what should the consumer experience in that event and output?
So when you smell the Lolita 2018, I'm not kidding, you're smelling Lolita. There is a hint, and every time anybody does this to you, by the way, they're always going to organoleptically trick you into smelling it. And I realize that, but I'm going to just risk it. There's a dried red rose petal quality to Lolita that every single time we smell this in barrel, whether we're smelling it in fermentation, whether we're tasting and smelling our 16s or 17s, it has that signature that makes it so, to me, sort of special and beautiful. On top, and then underneath that is the typical Russian River Valley, typical Clone 7.7 kind of qualities, which is, the dried cranberry, bit of plum, nice raspberry character to it. It's definitely spiciness as well. To me, it's the red rose petal with a touch of cedar. It always kind of comes up, and that's typical for that region of the Green Valley, that you get that kind of red rose petal cedar thing. Profile wise, some of my winemaking buddies have accused me of over extracting this wine, which I haven't, clearly, because it's not a big alcohol hit, but it has a natural tannin to it, a natural structure to it, that I try to just let it ride and not try to over accentuate, because it is for a lighter wine. It has a strong tannin structure, which kind of throws people off. Color wise, it's never been really indicative of that tannin structure, so it's always a bit of a fooling quality. And then what I love about Lolita is her perfume. So after you drink it, that crushed red rose petal, those dried red rose petals, they live in your organoleptic senses for a little while and kind of play off And I love that about it. Lolita was actually not named after the book, by the way, so it's not terribly inappropriate. It was a woman, and when she passed away, her husband, Bob, owned the vineyard, and he missed her so much, he named the vineyard after her. So it's a little bit of a pressure there to make sure that I want to make sure I'm doing right by Bob and Lolita every year.
Well, I mean, that's an incredible story. I'm thrilled that you were able to make the decision to get to 2020. And I would imagine, again, that was probably a decision. We talked earlier about winemaking on a knife edge. You have a fire over the hill next to you, and you're making the decision, we have to pick, and we're going to go pick this right now. And so thank you for doing that. That takes a lot of courage and a lot of chutzpah. And one thing I want to kind of drill back on is, you mentioned earlier that you're a viticulture first and a winemaker second. And while you and Sean essentially are doing this together, the winery itself actually came about because of maybe some spousal challenges with regards to you coming home cranky might be strong, you wanting to actually just relax. You've got grape guts all over you, and Sean, being the romantic gentleman that he is, was rewarding you with a glass of wine, and essentially didn't. How did
such a good guy?
There was a little bit of a dare involved. So talk to us about that.
So at the time, I was responsible for vineyards, probably in about 15 counties in California. We were.
By the way, you can name some of your customers. I mean,
yeah. So we were. Yeah, I was the director of grower relations for the Francis Ford Coppola Winery for 13 years, and I helped build their programs by 300%. And so at that point in time, I was coming home to my beautiful husband in the Russian River Valley, covered in grape boogers, and grape boogers from many counties in many regions of California. And they might not be day-old grape boogers. They might be 3-day-old grape boogers. I have no clue. I basically lived on burritos and drove in my car. And when you're in a vineyard, you walk the vineyard as much as you can, you do everything you can, you taste everything you can, and then you scream at somebody and you get it done. And so during harvest, it's definitely a high. Like, you get addicted to that, the whole like, I'm so capable, look at me, I'm the octopus of viticulturists. You know, I have so many arms. But a part of it too is that your family suffers because you come home and you don't turn it off. You're still tense and crazy. And, you know, phone call. My husband said the best way to get your attention is to call you at 2 a.m. because hello, this is Lise Asimont, Francis Ford Coppola Winery. You know, it was no problem to kind of deal with that. So I walk through probably like 20 shades deeper than cranky into the home to beautiful man. And my husband's behind the computer and will not ever grace us with his presence because he's extremely shy, but gorgeous blue eyes, like killer blue eyes. And this man just wants me to be happy. He wants it to make it okay. And I was in a different place every time. And he would greet me with a glass of wine. Okay. Glass of wine. And it was always Pinot Noir because that's his favorite variety. And he really, really is worried about me and wants it to be good. So it was a very expensive bottle of Pinot Noir that he did not get on his winery discount. He bought full price. Okay. So it's one of those. And I would go up to it and I would smell it. Okay. And usually about 95% of the time I would smell it. I would look at him and I would say, I hope you did not spend more than $13.99 on this pressy piece of not great wine. And he would it's so cruel, so not cool, bad wife moment in history. And this was vintages, years of this. So finally, the sweet man he's awesome. And he is my partner in everything, said, fine, princess, you make your own wine. And I said, well, it's going to cost a lot more than $35 to $40. And he goes, fine, do it. Let's do it. We're going to make the perfect wine. And we're not going to complain. This is what we'll drink. And I said, it's going to be expensive. And it is, but we really do enjoy it. And the best part too, is that now it's hilarious. Sean basically talks like an old industry veteran. He's like, it's really hard it's hard farming good grapes. And it's very hard to make good wine. He goes, but the harder thing is selling it. So that's where Cellar Angels comes in, where we are absolutely beyond indebted to be a part of your Ohana, because it's a big deal to us. It's big.
And we're delighted to have you. And I find it interesting. There's a couple of phrases I heard in there. One of them was that this was a crowning bad wife moment, as if there's a book of bad wife moments. And this was chapter 1, verse 1, bad wife moment. And it's interesting. First of all, you're an absolute angel for sharing the story. And I love the fact that Sean basically said, okay, well, princess, you're going to make a wine and let's see what you can do. So there was a little bit of a challenge, a little bit of a dare. And it was probably psychologically the nudge that was necessary to say, okay, let's do this.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
and
you're able to do lemonade out of lemons.
Yeah. And the first vintage we made, it was really fun for us because Sean, he would sort of taste the fermentation, and he goes, "This is horrible." And I was like, "No, it's gorgeous. This is amazing. What are you talking?" And then we would take him taste barrels, and he's like, "Is it supposed to taste like this?" I'm like, "Yes, it's the world's most expensive barrels with the world's most expensive grapes with the world's most expensive viticulturists making your wine." Like, and then at the end of it, when it's in bottle, I'm like, "You can't taste it. Don't taste it for at least 3 months." We taste it, and he's like, "This is amazing." He goes, "This is the same wine as what we were tasting the whole way." And I'm like, "Yes." It's like, "How did you know?" And I'm like, "Oh, you'll get used to it." So now fast forward 5 or 6 years and Sean's, tasting a barrel and he goes, "Yeah, it has promise." And I was like, "Yeah, it sure does." So.
Well, and that's the beauty of it, right? It's a journey, not a destination. Yeah. It's one of those things from a life perspective, it slows you down considerably because you have to, and this is where I have the utmost respect for what you do and how you do it, because you have to taste wines in a barrel, and sometimes just biting grapes off the vine and say, okay, what can this be like in 6 months? What can this be in 2 years when we go to bottle? And that takes a tremendous amount of courage, wisdom, experience, skill, luck to a degree. That's amazing. This is a living, breathing organism, and you're trying to anticipate what it's going to be like in 2 years.
It's really not. It's not skill. And they don't teach us this in school. It's just experience. It's because we've done it for so many years. It's not luck. Luck is getting your grapes off and not having smoke taint, in a fire year. That's luck. But yeah, it's experience, and we work with amazing growers. So
Doug actually beat me to the punch. He usually does. One of the brightest, sharpest tools in the box. How does someone actually come and taste with you?
Well, right now, so we're based in Healdsburg, California, which is in the northern part of Sonoma County, at the northern tip of the Russian River Valley. We do pop-up tastings.
These folks know where Healdsburg is.
Okay, good. We do pop-up tastings for people. So if you contact us, we're happy to do a pop-up in one of our vineyards and taste with you. We're also featured at a co-op tasting room in Geyserville, which is one town north of us here, called Locals Tasting Room. And then, am I allowed to say it? Okay, Sean said okay, so give me a thumbs up. We actually just inked a deal on our first tasting room. This is a big deal for a tiny wine label, so we're freaking out. So I know, yay! So we're gonna, so it's happening, and that should open as soon as the ABC will give us our license for that, because we have to do a little licensing on it, and ABC's a little inundated right now with not a lot of staff. So I'll definitely let you guys know when that opens.
I love how you said, "Am I allowed to say it?" And I answered yes, even though you were asking Sean. So I apologize, Sean. Did not mean to steal the thunder there. And Lily,
we have an online store. We have an online store as well, if you want to check that out.
And you guys should frequent the store. And Lily, don't think I didn't see you nod profusely, or you know the word I'm looking for, when I said, "Oh, we know where Healdsburg is," because I know you in Scotland know where Healdsburg is. So yeah, it's a good place to stay. It is. Did we talk about food pairing?
Oh, that's why I love, so Pinot Noir for me is such an exceptional variety, because it's just has such a wide, broad ability to pair with just about anything. I always say it passes the Thanksgiving dinner test. So Thanksgiving dinner is sort of a nightmare for winemakers, because there's so many, they're sweet and savory and marshmallow and protein and fat, and it's just a mess to sort of pair with. So Pinot Noir is one of those wines that you can basically drink with anything. I happen to be a Filipino. I'm a Filipino American with strong Hawaiian roots, and so a lot of our food tends to be very Southeast Asian, Hawaiian kind of style stuff, which isn't easy to really pair. So we love our Pinot Noir with Kalbi short ribs, if you guys know what that is, with a side of Hawaiian Hawaiian barbecue sauce. Also, it's our favorite wine to have with salmon. We actually have family coming into town tonight, and we'll have salmon with it because the fattiness of the salmon. Also, Sonoma County residents are spoiled rotten because we have Sonoma County salmon, so it's just ridiculously lovely. And then lamb chops. My husband actually grew up on a sheep ranch and knows his lamb. And so we always have this with lamb chops as well, which is lovely. Just quick grilled, you know, it can handle also Pinot Noir is amazing. It can handle a little bit of mustard if you like to, you know, dress your lamb chops with mustard on it before you grill them, and it handles it just perfectly.
Well, that sounds good.
So,
That sounds
is there a joke
amazing.
about lamb chops that I miss? People are
No,
laughing. And I
no,
don't
no.
like it.
There's people that have had smoked chicken wings
smoked
tonight
chicken
that
wings.
actually did
No,
very,
that's
very well.
perfect. Yeah, it's perfect. Smoked chicken wings would be great with this. Yeah, way to go. What sauce did you use?
What sauce? I'm gonna have to separate the Greases and Nelson because they are apparently third graders again. They're back. You have them actually playing with each other. These are best friends from different parts of the country. No dry
Oh, I
rub.
love that.
What are you? How are
No,
you?
no, dry rub. Nice.
How are you
Nice.
preparing the salmon tomorrow or tonight?
Well, okay, there's no judgment, right, in this group because I had to make it into a packet.
Cone of
When we get
silence.
home, Sean's cousin's going to be there, and I have to just I'm going to throw it on the grill and whip up a salad. I'm going to whip up a fennel salad because that's what I did. So I took the tops of the fennel, I chopped them up, I threw them in the bottom of the foil packet that I made, and then I carefully filleted off 4 fillets of salmon. I put them on there, and then I did a little bit of we have like a dried dehydrated citrus blend I like to use with a touch of garlic in it and salt and pepper. The salt I'm using right now is actually Hawaiian sea salt. It's their version of fleur de sel, but it's Hawaiian. It is so good. It is so salty though,
Wow.
so you have to be really careful. If you can find it, you can find it online. Just put gray salt and gray Hawaiian salt. It's incredible. It has little flecks of more of the black volcanic salt that gives a little bit more of a mineral quality to the flavor. So I like that too. So I put that on there, and then I put a dollop of mayo on each one, and I spread it because I like that. And I like my salmon being even fattier, and I don't care who judges me right now. And then on top of that, and then I put 2 slices of lemon, and I just wrap it up and I make a little foil packet, and then we throw it on the grill when we get home. Open up a bottle, you know, of our Sauvignon Blanc to start because Sean's cousin just got off a plane, and she must be thirsty. That's our first Sauvignon Blanc we've made. It's a Russian River Valley Sauvignon Blanc as well, and let the night right into some Lolita.
So this is tomorrow night. What time should we be there? This sounds
It's
divine.
tonight.
Oh,
We're doing this tonight. Yeah,
Son of a
sorry
gun.
guys. Yeah,
All right,
but
no,
when you visit,
that's-
if you visit, we can't wait to have you guys over for dinner because we would love to see you. So yeah, and anyone else, any Cellar Angels, I'm totally serious. We're very Filipino Hawaiian. We always have people over. And
you're
we're
amazing.
vaccinated. Sean just told me we're waxed and vaxxed. We're ready to party. Let's go.
I'm not even certain what waxed means as part of the vax, but that's a different show. It's on later at about 11 o'clock tonight. So confused. But I want to thank you. I want to thank the Cellar Angels, loyal fans. I want everyone to be good to one another. It is Memorial Day. We have an amazing amount to be thankful for, and we are all blessed. One of the blessings we have is fantastic wines and access to great wines. 85 cases, which is a scary small amount. Lise, you are an absolute angel for putting up with us. And thank you so much for sharing the story of Dot Wines, how you got into this crazy business, your passion for the vine, and everything about the Russian River Valley. Without you, we would know a heck of a lot less. So thank you so much. Cheers to you, Lise. I'm going to take a sip to you.
Okay, I'll take a sip myself.
My goodness. And by the way, Sean, I know you're going to be off camera, but
just come on. He's coming. I have to remove my background. I'm removing my background.
by the way,
He hasn't gone through his
when
hair
Lise
and
says
makeup.
Sean is a gardener, that's like saying Tiger Woods worked at a driving range. Sean is a little bit more than a gardener. Sean is in the house. All right, next week we're gonna continue with Pinot Noir with waxwing wines from the Central Coast, a little bit further south. This is one of our first forays down there. So, and look at that, the Hawaiian. I love it.
No, waxwing. They make gorgeous wines. Their Pinot Noir is so fantastic, and it's such a great flavor profile.
Scott Sizemore will be in the house. All of you, be good, stay safe, have a great bottle of wine, and give each other a hug. Cheers.